I had everyone tell me, oh, you got to be careful. Like, you got to be careful. You know, you're going to get pickpocketed. Or I was told flat out that I was going to get killed coming over here by people. There's something here. The first time you watch traffic in Cambodia, you're like, people are going to die.
Meet Shan, a tourist Canadian who found his soul in Cambodia. Shan shares his experience in Cambodia, the common misconceptions about Cambodia, what foreigners should know before coming to Cambodia, and why he chose Siem Reap over the capital city, Phnom Penh.
What I'd heard of Cambodia was from when I was a kid, so it was not anything good. So in the West, the preconceived notions of what Cambodia is decades old. So what we have is just propaganda from 40 years ago. I haven't heard anything. Like, if I hadn't have gone online to research it for myself, I wouldn't know anything more about Cambodia than what I knew from the late 70s. And I was a kid watching that happen. So, and so that left an indelible mark in my brain of like the images of what Cambodia was a scary thing. Even when I told my family, even my ex-wife, I said, hey, I'm going to Cambodia to get my visa run. I'll be gone for 10 days. She was like, you're going to be okay. Because that's the image that we had. Like, it wasn't safe. It was, a really run down for a rural country. Even my parents had, preconceived notions because we don't know, it's not in our face. Like in the West, in Canada especially, we get a lot of information from America. We get some South America and Europe. But for the rest of the world, it's not really showcased unless you're looking for it. If you're going to be a tourist, there's places that, to go to Thailand, to go to Bali. There's places that are always talked about. Cambodia never hits that cliff. But I'd known about Angkor Wat because I've always been fascinated by archaeology and things that were like old stuff. And so I wanted to see what Angkor Wat was about. And I knew it was in Cambodia, but I didn't know it was in Siem Reap until I planned coming here. And I was like, ooh, that's where I want to go, And I still haven't gone.
Oh, you haven't?
I haven't gone.
Really?
No. That was one of the things is like when I came to Siem Reap, I was just walking down the river one day, and the gentleman was just there. He was like, hey, I'm eating a little sandwich.
Yeah.
And he comes over, and he's an American, and we start talking. He's like, oh, what are you doing here? I'm like, yeah, I'm just on a visa run, and I'm in Thailand. He's like, you should probably come to Cambodia. So I asked him a bunch of questions, like, like what the visa situation was like, how hard it was to get. And so he ended up saying, he goes, yeah. And he goes, what the coolest thing is? He goes, on my second year, when I got my visa, they had a card in there for me, and it was a free pass to Angkor Wat. It was like a thank you. Now you're considered a local. And I'm like, wait, so on my second year, I can go to Angkor Wat? He goes, yeah. He goes, off if you want. I'm like, oh, heck yeah. So, and I looked at the cost, it's like, almost $38. I'm like, well, why not make it something special? And like, this is my goal for myself is like, I want to be here for that second year. I want to get that pass, and that'll be my treat for myself. So now, not only do I go once, I can go the next day, the next day, the next day, the next day, and go as often as I want. It's like, because I'm afraid that if I go once, they'd be like, I really want to go back, and then I'll end up going broke. Spend all my money on Angkor Wat.
And of course, it's too large. You cannot visit.
You can't see it all in one day.
What have you learned from Cambodians that you're currently applying in your daily life?
One of the things that I was curious about when I got here is because of everyone being so kind, like smiling and everything. And I didn't understand it. Like, for me, it didn't make sense as to how everyone could be just so happy all the time. So I would ask questions, it's like, because of everything that happened, historically, I'm not going to get into detail, but we all know what I'm alluding to. There's enough reason for people here to be upset and to have that anger, and that, I would understand people have animosity towards people from the West. I would understand it. And none of that happened. And I asked a few people that I had, developed friendships with. I'm like, how come everybody is so kind here? So it's like after everything that had happened, when education system was gone and like everything was gone, the monks took in the children to teach them. They were giving them an education because there was no schools anymore. And part of that teaching was, if you want to get good back, you have to put good out. So you put love in your heart and you give that out, you'll get that coming back. Put out the positive energy, and positive energy comes back at you. And I'm like, and it was like, yeah, you guys get it. So that's what I try to do every day, I'm trying to match their positive energy. It's hard. When I first got here, I got sick. I got like a food bug, like my stomach. I was having a hard time. So I went to a pharmacist, and she, got me some medication, and she also told me about the thing for parasites. That, in case I didn't know about that, I'm like, I'll take all of it. Give me all of it. And so I went back in about a week later, and I thanked her because I was feeling better. And I wanted to pick up some other stuff. And she said to me, she says, I really love your energy. She asked me how old I was, and I told her, I'm 56. And she was like, you smile all the time. You're so happy. Why are you so happy? I'm like, because I'm in Cambodia. But it made me happy to know that she saw that, and I was like, I'm doing it right. If one person sees it, I'm doing it right. Even if it's just that one person, I'm good. Life is so much easier when you smile, My quality of life is so much better here. And I love just to be able to go out and buy my little bit of groceries, or go to my little restaurants, just to smile and have like the basic conversations that I have with the folks, and try to put some of that positive energy back with them, because there's the grumpy tourists and the grumpy foreigners that are here, and I don't want to be one of those people.
What do you think people get wrong, or the Westerners get wrong about Cambodia, that when you came here, you discovered that these guys are wrong?
That it's dangerous. I think and it wasn't just the West. It's like, it was even when I was in Thailand, when I had my friends out and I was in Bangkok, and I was saying that I was going to Siem Reap and I was going to Cambodia to do a visa run. I had everyone tell me, oh, you got to be careful. Like, you got to be careful. You're going to get pickpocketed or killed. I was told flat out that I was going to get killed coming over here by people. And that's that's a preconceived notion that was incorrect. Like, people thinking that it's dangerous being here. And I'm like, that's the furthest thing. Like, I've tried to think that I'm a pretty good judge of character. Like, I listen to my intuition. If I get that heebie-jeebie feeling, like where you get like the hair on the back of your neck stand up and you walk into a place, I turn around and walk another direction. I'm like, if something's telling me to not be there, I'm out. That hasn't happened here. Like, I've been out taking a walk at 3 o'clock in the morning because, I wake up and it was 40 degrees during the day, but it's now, it's only 30 at night. I'm going to take a walk and I'm going to enjoy the cool air. I can sleep later, I have never felt anything but safe here, ever. The information that I had was just from what had happened here in the 70s. So, and that was no different for Vietnam either. Like, there's more information about Vietnam that I could get from the West because tourism is starting, but I don't think that I know we don't get any advertisement for Cambodia and Canada. I try not to judge anything because, like, everybody has their own preconceived notions. Like, even when it comes to people, like, there'll be a person that everybody just thinks is the best, I think is a complete jerk, and it's just, everyone's opinions are different for everything. So that's one of the reasons why when, people were saying, it's like, you gotta be careful. I'm like, I'll be fine, My mom was one of the funniest ones. She was like, she's Sean, I worry about you. You get, when you're out walking on the streets and, you're my little boy, and there's bad people that are out there. And she's not talking here. She just talks in general. And I said to her, did you look at me, Mom? It's like, I look exactly like the people you're trying to warn me about. I've got the, the long hair, I've got, the black clothing and the beard and everything. I look like the kind of guy you should warn your son about. And I'm that guy. And
That is true.
It's true. And I'm like, but I said to her, it's like, so do you think that I'm a bad? She goes, no, you're my boy. I love you. I'm like, exactly. So that whole thing, judging a book by its cover, you can't do it. I'm like, I look this way because this is how I'm comfortable. This is how I like to express myself. But I try not to be anything other than just a nice person, and I think every place, every person deserves that shot, that shake, give everybody an opportunity, so that's why I'm here, and I'm like, there's places that I'm nervous to go to. Yeah,
Of course.
you know,
Because you cannot go everywhere. You need to protect yourself.
and and again, if there's a place that has political unrest and strife, and there's something is happening there currently, I will stay away. But if it's just a tourist place, and there's not a current thing happening there,
Yeah.
I'm in. It's like, okay, I'll go. I've heard everyone say that food is awful in the Philippines. I'm like, I can't wait to get there and find out how wrong they are, because I also heard how bad the food was in Cambodia. It's like, in Thailand, it's like, oh yeah, the food's bad. In Cambodia, I'm like, it's very close in taste to Thai food, except they don't force you to eat 1,000 hot peppers. In Cambodia, you can add them. You're allowed to add as many spices as you want, but it's not just built into it. Yeah, it's like, I like the option. Thank you very much. If I want to have bland food, I can have it. But man, oh man, the food here is so good. So good.
Yeah, that reminds me. You eat Khmer food.
Yeah, every day. Every day. Yeah. I accidentally had Prahak. Sorry.
Hi there.
Oh, dude, I love it.
Really?
Yeah. Yeah. Friend of mine, he was doing YouTube as well. His name's Frank. Him and I had gone out for to that temple that I was telling you about. He wanted to go and meditate, and we both wanted to do the same thing. So we just went, chilled out, meditating. On our way back, we're walking by, and there's a little restaurant. And anytime I see the silver pots outside, I'm like, I'm stopping. Like, I always know it's going to be local food. And usually it's soups and stuff, and, get rice and veggies, and I'm like, I'm in. And so I pointed at one that I'd had before. It was like pork, boiled egg, brown sauce, and it had like bamboo shoot like chopped up in it. And it's kind of sweet. It's really nice. And I'm like, I'll have that. And then I pointed another one. I'm like, what's that? And because it had looked like peppercorns all over it. And the lady, she couldn't speak English very much at all. And she was like, spicy. I'm like, good, I like spicy. She was trying to scare me away from it. I'm like, I'll take it. And so they gave me, and it was Prague. And so my buddy, we're just going to share. So we got 2 dishes and we're just going to share. And so, we're eating away and we both eat into this Prague, and it was it was delicious. Because I'd always heard it's like super funky, smells bad. I'm thinking it's going to be awful.
I haven't even prepared my brain, like my thinking to have that food. I've been here for a long time, The smell alone scares me away. I'll put it inside my mouth, but I'm gonna try.
But the thing is, it's like, if it's prepared, like this one was prepared with pork. So it's not just the Prague by itself. It's actually done up with pork and everything else. And you have the veggies that are with it and you eat it. And both Frank and I were just like, that was so good. And I went back a couple days later because when I get a place that I like, I'm going to go back. So there was a gentleman that was there, and he was telling me what everything was. And I'm like, what is this one? And he goes, oh, you don't want to try that? I'm like, no, I had it the other day, but what is it? And he goes, that's Prague. And I'm like, so good. I'm like, that's Prague. I'm like, oh my God, I'm addicted to this stuff. So it's delightful.
You have any other favorite? Is Prague your favorite?
No, I don't have favorites. I go all the time for different things. It's like my morning used to be, I'd have the pork rice with egg, and still love it. But now I've been getting the porridge, like the rice porridge with chicken or fish or pork. And if it's got entrails in it, I'm like, give me more. I just love all of it. But yeah, the porridge, which is, the thing was, baba, is that right? Bobo.
Yeah, right. I think.
Yeah. Don't know.
You're right.
I order it off of Food Panda. It's I'm good. But yeah, that's for when I go out, a a lot of times I'll just look at, like, if they have a menu with pictures on stuff, I'll just point at one. And, if they have prices, that's my thing. Is like, if I go to like the food stalls and they don't have prices, I just don't.
Oh, yeah, guys.
Not because I don't like it. It's just like,
Yeah, of course.
even back home, if I go to a restaurant and they don't have prices, and the adage is like, if you have to ask how expensive it is, you can't afford it.
Yes.
So I go with that adage here. It's like, if there's no prices, I'm like, I need to know how much I'm spending. It's like, because what if my ABA doesn't work? I have to use cash out of my pocket. I want to make sure I have enough. So, like, and it's just, me being me. But I've never had a bad meal.
Do you eat more of Cambodian food or Western food?
95% Cambodian. Yeah. I go out to treat myself once in a blue moon, where I'll go out for a burger, I'll go out for tacos, but I don't crave it. I don't, don't need it. Even when I'm cooking at home for myself, I'm using local foods and, making little soups and things for myself. I have no idea if I'm doing any of it right. Doesn't matter.
But it tastes good.
It tastes fine. It's like, I'm just random vegetables that I see at the market. I'm like, I have no idea what any of this stuff is. I'm just chopping it up, throwing it into the pot, and it tastes great. I've been ordering like these like little dishes. I have no idea what this stuff is at all. And even the description in the Food Panda, is wrong. The picture's wrong. None of it matches. And it's like a layer of veggies and herbs, and then a noodle. And then it's like spring roll, peanuts, and meat. Sometimes it's pork, and there's always a little shrimp in it. And then you've got all these different like sauces and stuff, and then like there's like coconut cream and like a sweet and sour soup type of thing you pour over top of it. Freaking amazing. And I'll order it in the morning and I'll put it in my fridge, and that's my snack at night before I go to bed. I'll have like this big bowl of soup, or soup noodles. Can't tell you what it is. It's delicious.
Why do you choose Siem Reap over the capital city, Phnom Penh?
I tried it. So Siem Reap hit my radar first because of the fact that of Angkor. And also, for real, they were based out of here. So I'd seen enough videos to know that it was a city I wanted to explore. But I'd been here for about 4 months before I went anywhere else in Cambodia. So I took a trip down to Siem Reap and Phnom Penh. I was in Phnom Penh for 4 days. And I had a lot of fun. Like, I stayed downtown, got to see a lot of the touristy stuff. It had a really interesting vibe and a real fun city. And then when I came back, I was like, I should probably try to live in Phnom Penh for a while just to get a feel for it. So I did it. I did 2 months. I was there for 2 weeks. And I miss Siem Reap. Phnom Penh is wonderful. It's a good city. There's a lot it offers, like the malls, the food. Like, there's so many international foods that are available. What it lacked was the fact that it's a city. I've lived in dozens of cities in my life in the West, and I left the West to get away from all the Western stuff, and I found that there was more of that creeping into the consciousness in Phnom Penh. There's something here. There's a different feel, there's a different vibe. I found peace here that I didn't find anywhere else. I was a mess in Canada. Like, I've talked about this openly on my channel. Pandemic hit me hard. I was living in Montreal, Canada, when it hit. Like everybody, it was the scariest moment. It was when they said we're locking things down. I lived in a small studio apartment. I lived next to a highway. It was like a 16-lane highway. So every day it was like cars all the time. Then that stopped. There was nothing. There was no sound outside. And it was the scariest thing for me because there was nothing happening. I got scared. And the West didn't help because all of our media was about, all the things you needed to do to safeguard yourself. But there was no follow-up. It was just always like just scaring you. And I bought into it hook, line, and sinker. So I was masked all the time. I didn't leave my house unless I had to go get groceries. I didn't have a social life for over 4 years. I lost my job. I got laid off, but I was already planning on coming over to Southeast Asia. I made a deal with myself. It's like, I'm not going to do that. Like, I'm not going to mask every time I step out of the house. if I'm sick, if there's others, like if there's something happens, sure, I'll put a mask back on, but I'm not just going to be that guy even trapped behind it. And I was going to be more sociable, I'm going to, eat out and talk to people. And I just decided that I needed to change. And that's part of the reason I started my YouTube channel, is because I wanted to force myself outside, because I had been shut in. Like I left my house to go get groceries or take a walk in a park, and that was it. Like I was completely a mess. So I was overweight, depressed, and I didn't know how bad off I was until I got over here. And then I started walking and, visiting the temples here and eating the local foods and seeing the amazing, lovely people. And then within a few months, I dropped 50 pounds and I was smiling all the time. And all of a sudden, I was looking forward to going outside. Like, I didn't think about a mask. And what I found was that the 3 months that I was in Bangkok was the start of it. But in Siem Reap is where I found myself again. And I found peace within myself and happiness for the first time in years. And so it's hard for me to think about going someplace else when this place did such a profound change to who I am. So that's why Siem Reap is here for me.
Well, interesting. I believe Thailand, of course, Thailand is more developed. Vietnam is more developed compared to Cambodia. But can I ask, why did you choose to live in Cambodia, to live your dream life here?
The reasons for me wanting to be in Cambodia were twofold. I didn't initially plan on staying here full time, anywhere. I thought I was going to be traveling for 6 months, maybe 9, because of my savings that I had. So I was going to do like the travel vlogging thing. And then once I found that I was in Siem Reap and I'd fallen in love with the city and I'd heard about the visa and everything, and I was like, when I came across from Thailand, when I applied for my visa, I was on the bus, took a giant ibis and you can do your visa on the bus. I clicked the wrong box on the freaking thing. I got a tourist visa instead of the general visa. So when I came here, I'm like, okay, I'm gonna wait 2 weeks and I'm gonna go get my visa and I'll get an extension. I ended up just getting a 1 month extension for it, and then I had to leave to come back. And so in that 2 month time frame that I was here, I decided that I wanted to stay longer. And so I was like, maybe 6 months. I'll extend my stay here a little bit longer. When I got to the visa, I was like, I'm just going to do the year. And I got the retirement visa because it was 55 or older. It was like under $300. And then I've got a visa for a year and it's multiple entry. And I'm like, well, that'll be perfect for me. Because if I want to travel and I still want to see parts of Southeast Asia, then that's going to be ideal. And so the logistics of getting an easier to get visa just made perfect sense. Like compared to Thailand, I can't get a visa for a long stay in Vietnam. It's like you get 3 months of time, and then it's like I'm still dealing with that leaving, coming back, and then like you have to add that cost into like when you're staying. So people are like, well, $300 is a lot of money for a visa. I'm like, right. But then if I was in Thailand, I get 2 land crossings a year, then I have to fly. Yeah. So flights are not as cheap as they used to be. So, I'm looking at another $100 a month on top of everything else. It's like, it all adds up. That was one of the reasons. The other reason was just the people. Like, I'm Canadian. We're world renowned for being friendly, nice people. We have gets to learn about being nice and gracious compared to the people here in Cambodia. Oh my God. I'm sure you see it. Little kids come running up. Like, kids back home, you run away from because you think they're going to pickpocket you. You don't know what they're up to. And I'm exaggerating, obviously, but, their kids can be up to no good back home. But I'll have kids running up here, and, they could be covered in dirt. They've been playing outside all day long. It's not running down their faces, and they just want to come and give you a high five, big smiles. And they just and they get so excited saying hello, practicing a little bit of English with you. And just like that joy from these kids, like that is compounded by every adult. And like, I've never in my life had people thank me for coming and visiting their country before until I got here. Thank you for choosing Cambodia. I'm like, wait, what? It's like, thank you for having me. Like, are you kidding me? It's like I'm the guest here. You're not thanking me. I'm thanking you because you've made a place that I want to stay. Like boggles my mind of like how amazing the people are here, and it's everywhere. And I thought it was kind of like, is it just because I'm in Siem Reap? You know, this is a tourist area, and like, are these people just kind of nice because I'm at the hotel? You know, am I hitting the spots, the touristy spots? And then I'd been here for a couple months, and it was never ending, and it still happens to this day.
Cambodians are very fun.
You know, it's a kingdom of wonder, and I just wonder how come more people don't know about it. You know, it's like,
Exactly. You know, being here, being in Southeast Asia or Cambodia specific, life in Canada and Cambodia is not the same. Of course, the weather there is not the same here. Can I ask, how do you adjust, adapt to the system, the weather here? You know, how do you transit to the weather here, or you are still struggling?
I haven't struggled at all with it. I've had zero problems acclimatizing to it here. It, it, there's a misconception about Canada just being cold. Like, everyone thinks that we live in igloos and it's cold all the time. But like, we'll have winters where we'll get down to minus 40, but in the summer it can go up to 40 degrees centigrade. So it just doesn't. We just don't have the length of time. So you'll have our summer should go up to, in Fredericton, it wouldn't be anything to get it up to 30, 32, 33, but our houses are not made for that. So our houses are developed to keep you warm in the winter. And so we have insulation and all that. So when it gets hot outside, it gets hot inside. So we don't have the same ventilations, or like the way that our homes are constructed are not made for warm weather. So we have air conditioning going all the time, you know, and it's that I find was more difficult to deal with than here, because I can just put a fan on, you know, open my door, open my windows, and I get a nice cross breeze, and I'm comfortable all day long. Whereas back home, I'd be miserable because it just feel like I was like boiling inside my home. I'd go step outside and I'm kind of comfortable, but inside my house, it was miserable. So I haven't had a problem adjusting to the heat, but I also spent half my life living in Florida, which is in the southern part of the United States. So we'd have really hot weather there. So I'm not you know, it's okay. You know, I'm kind of was used to hot temperatures. I think for me, the adjustment to living here was just easy because I wanted it. You know, I kind of lost faith in the West about 15, 20 years ago. I started to feel that the way that I was changing, like what I wanted in my life and my goals, dreams, and aspirations, just seemed to be diverging from the direction that life was going in the West, where the focus was on work, you know, and the cost of living kept on increasing. Like when I was living in Toronto, I was paying almost $2,500 a month on rent and utilities. I spent that here in like 4 months, you know, and that's living, a full living expenses. So like 1 month living in Canada, like I was making a joke about it the other day, is that my cost for my apartment and my electricity and everything here is still cheaper than just my cost for internet in Canada. You know, like you in the West, you have access to things like, you know, Amazon and easy things and, you know, all the grocery stores and all the fast food and like there's so many things that we have access to. And in Canada, we do have healthcare. So, I mean, that is part of what we have. So, I mean, I was covered with all that, but it didn't add to my quality of life, you know, where I had to work so hard just to make ends meet, whereas I don't have that over here. You know, and I find even the people that are struggling and that, you know, this is a poor country. And at no point am I, you know, trying to poo-poo anything that they struggle with here. But what I see in Canada is when you have a homeless person or a person that is downtrodden, it's always like handouts. Like there's a lot of begging, or just they turn to drugs and alcohol. Like it was nothing. I lived in a small town of 50,000 people, and there were sections of town that I couldn't go to because there were drug addicts that were there that were so bad. Have you heard of fentanyl? Like, so it's like people would be standing, but they'd be folded over in half. And I saw that, and I'm like, what is happening? And I come over here, and even if they are destitute broke, they're selling fruits or whatever. Like there's so much drive and ambition just to survive here. I'm not like I see the odd person at a panhandle, but it's usually in like the touristy areas, and it's always like a person that is obviously in need. They've amputations or exceptionally old. And I get that, but I don't see the same. Like I see a lot of kids back home that are, and it's just like I see all like the things in the West is like what you see on TV. Like you watch the the TV shows and everything, and you've got 8 friends living in an apartment in New York City, and they're working as waiters, and yet they have an amazing apartment. That never happens. It didn't happen when the shows are out, and you're fed this thing of like what the Western dream is, or even the American dream, and I I I don't know anybody that's living that. Everybody I know is struggling, and then so many people are struggling more and more and more, and some people are just giving up, and they're like, I have friends now that are a paycheck away from being homeless. So if I don't have to deal with that and I can be here, I'm happy. But so that's the weight that I had on me coming over here. I told you I was depressed, and there was a reason for it, because that was the stuff that was weighing on me. It's like when I was spending so much of my income just to survive. There used to be like the things like 25% of your paycheck should cover your bills.
Yeah.
Your apartment and all that. It used to be just your rent, and then it was like, it used to be all your bills. Then it was just your rent. But when all your other bills were adding up to more and more and more, and when people would have to go to food banks for food that have a full-time job, that doesn't make any sense to me. You don't have enough money at the end of the day, and you work full-time. You can't buy food for your family. There's something wrong. And I was seeing more and more of that, and I have more friends that have reached out to me since I got over here. They're like, how are you surviving over there? They're like, how do you make it work? I'm like, I don't deal with what you guys deal with. All that struggle, all that garbage, like that, all the things that were so important to me when I lived there meant nothing the minute I came over here. Like my day is so much better. It's so much easier to cope with when I don't have that baggage. So easy to adapt to Cambodia when you're surrounded by people that are smiling instead of frowning.
Yeah, you're right.
It's simple here, because like every tuk-tuk driver wants to be your friend. Like I understand there's an ulterior motive.
Yeah.
But they're like at level 10 of wanting to get your attention, whereas the regular population would be like around a 6. Where back in Canada it'd be like at a -4. Like that was the other thing too, is like if I'm walking down the street back home, like in Toronto, 3 million people, massive city, okay? You can walk down the street, if you have your eyes up and you're looking at a person, you wave, you turn. Nobody wants to make eye contact. Nobody wants to communicate. Nobody wants connection. Don't have any idea why. I come over here, and it's like everybody wants to talk. Everyone wants to say hi. And that's all the time. Like, I walk past stores, or I walk past the security guards. If you've seen that with the security guard just sitting there, like bored out of his mind, and you're like, hi. And their face just lights up, and they're like, hi. I was like, oh my gosh, somebody's talking to me. Thank you. Like the people here, like if I wanted to make friends, it would be
Exactly.
simple.
Yeah, if like I always said, if I want to make like 10 friends, 100 friends a day, it's easy.
Easy.
I'm the one who is running away from now.
I'm the same. And like I'm constantly invited to, hey, have you eaten? Are you hungry? because I really think that a focus on food is really important here. Like, people love to share their cuisine, you know, and I wish that it always happens. Like, I'm just leaving a restaurant, I've just had my lunch, and I'll bump into somebody and they want to talk, and they're like, "Oh, you eaten?" I'm like, I just ate. It happens all the time, but it's like, I should just not eat and walk around.
Have you tried to learn the language?
I've tried little bits. I've done some like online, like on YouTube, that teach you little bits, and
It's hard.
it's my brain. I hear the word, okay? I understand how to say it. Then it hits my tongue, and it's like there's a disconnect between my brain and my tongue, and I'm like, I'm trying to say hello, and it's going, yeah. I'm like, what is going on here? And there's a tonal aspect to the language that I'm always getting wrong, and I'm just like, people look at me like I've lost my brain entirely, but they never critique me. They may say it again to me the right way, and then they like, okay, so you're just the idiot that can't get it. Ooh, we're fine. They're like, that's such a nice guy. They put you on the top of the head and they let you go on. Thank you, Mr. Whitenass. It's like,
I totally understand what it is. And when you say it out, if you're not happy the way you say it, you feel disappointed,
And that's what they see, is like they see that I'm frustrated with myself, but just the fact that I'm trying to say things, it just means the world here. Like, just the attempt
Yeah. They like
is important here. But I want to learn more.
the best thing about them is that when you make mistake, they make fun of it. They don't judge you when you
No.
make mistakes.
No, but they laugh at you when you make fun of yourself, and they know that there's a joke that they can go with, and they're like, oh, okay, I'm in.
I did think Khmer, the language is hard.
I don't know if it's necessarily hard. It's just such a foreign thing for me, because like growing up, English and French were around all the time, because in Canada, French is our secondary language. So when I would go to other countries, if I heard Spanish or if I heard other, like Italian, there are words that are similar enough that I can go, oh, okay, that I can make those connections. I don't get that here. So none of the words hit, except there's the odd word that is interpreted from French, like barang.
Yeah.
I understand that's a French word. So there are some things, but they've been completely changed. And again, because of some of the tonal aspects of the language, the way that it sounds in my ear doesn't hit the same way. But, and the other part is I'm an avid reader. And so even if I can't say the word, I could look at the word written out and I could phonetically start to pull it out. I can't even do that here because it's completely different, alphabet. It's completely different. And it's absolutely gorgeous looking too.
Oh, how can they even understand that?
I know, and I'm looking at him like, you're painting pictures when you write. It's amazing. And like, it's just, yeah, I just feel at a complete loss of it. So I will probably end up taking a course and sitting with somebody that speaks it. The other thing I'm told is like, get a my girlfriend. I'm like, thanks. No,
You feel like the language barrier affects your daily living here?
not at all. No. Again, because if you put forth the effort, it's like I will go into a store asking for something random that I'm like, does this phone have MagSafe? And they're like looking at me. And, I pull the picture or I pull up the translate and we can communicate back and forth. And like as long, and thankfully, like with Google stuff is like, if they can read it on the screen, or I could hit the button and it says it out loud. And so even the people that can't read, I can still communicate with. And so it does a real crap job with some words. Like it does a really poor job where we're looking at each other like, what did we just say? You just rephrase it and you come at it at a different angle and then it's fine. But, even when I need to do something specific, I haven't had an issue with it. And in Siem Reap, so many people here speak English that in Phnom Penh, it was more of an issue than it is here.
Yeah.
English is just everywhere. And in a local area like where I'm at now, I'm finding there are fewer people that are fluent in English, but more than willing to try. And again, when I'm trying and they're trying, we find a way to communicate, and it's usually no issue. It hasn't slowed me down. I love it.
What do you think people should know before visiting, before coming to Cambodia?
Take all your preconceived notions about anything you do with your day-to-day life. Everything. Like how you order food, how you treat people, throw that out the window. All of it. Like how everything works in the West is not going to work here. You know, raising your voice, if you get confused or something doesn't go your way, raising your voice is the last thing you want to do here, because that gets you absolutely nowhere. So the people that are like, I want to talk to your manager, they might as well not even come here, because it's not going to do anything. They're just going to look at you and if you're lucky, they'll turn around and walk away, because they don't have any patience or time for that, because animosity and anger has no purpose here. But honestly, if you're going to come here, just expect to be surprised. Like, I don't care how well prepared you are, there's going to be something that you're like, I had no idea that you could do that. You know, the first time you watch traffic in Cambodia, you're like, people are going to die. Like, and I watch it and it's just like, they just blend, and I'm like, how is this possible? Like, how are you doing this? And it just, everything just works here. And it may be like, coming from the West, I think logically it's like, okay, this is how something should be done. And then I see how it's done in Cambodia. And as long as I don't try to make it work the Western way, and I just accept that that's how it happens here, it's better, because I'm like, oh, that makes sense now. We're wrong. We're the idiots, you know? There's just so many things here that once you take off all of the barriers that we put in our way back home and just accept things here, so much easier. But yeah, expect to laugh, smile, and be humbled every day. And as long as you are okay with being humbled a little bit, you'll fit in. Because like, that's what I find is like, I just have to accept that I'm in an area and surrounded by people that have more compassion and love, and don't expect complications. I think that's the other thing is I was from the West, like I want to meticulously organize my day. It's like, I got to do this, and this is how everything has to happen. And that there's no complications. It's like, even getting my visa here. So I'm like, I'm thinking like, what documentation do I need to bring? I'm thinking I'm carrying like a bag full of stuff. I go into the agency and she's like, what do you want? I'm like, I want the year visa. And she's like, okay, do you have your passport? And I hand it to her. And she's like, do you have a picture? I'm like, oh no, and she's like, just stand against the wall, click. Okay. Do you have a phone number? I'm like, yeah. And then she's like, do you have your money? I'm like, sure. She's like, okay, see you in 10 days. I'm like, wait, that's it? It's like, there was no drama. There was no, like, that's the epitome of things here. It's like, it's not complicated. Things just work.
What have you seen in Cambodia that wows you, or something that you've seen in Cambodia you never expected?
Okay. There is a temple not too far from here. You know where you said you're at the Peace Cafe?
Yeah.
Just up the street from that a little bit, there is a temple, a Wat, and it's one of the free ones you can go and visit. On the outside is like all this new buildings. And so like when I got here, I've been visiting a lot of the temples that I could walk to and go to. And then I got in further and there were ruins. So there were temple ruins that were there, like you would see like at Angkor Wat or something. But these were ancient. They were old. And they're right there, like all surrounded by everything. And I grew up loving archaeology, loving anything to do with old stuff. Like, when I was in Italy, seeing the Colosseum and stuff, I was like, wow, that's so cool. And then I had that awe experience of like, I'm looking at all this, new construction. The guys are building, like they're hammering and going away in the new building. And I'm standing with all these bricks and the what I thought was like lava rock, but I heard it's laterite. And so I was just there looking at something that had been there for hundreds to thousands of years. And there was such cool energy that came off of it. Like, it was like, that's the place I go to when my head's fuzzy
Yeah.
and I feel like I need to reconnect to things. I'll just walk over to there and I'll just sit in there for a little bit, readjust my brain, because it just centers me again. Because, like, again, like I mentioned, like being humble. So I like to get humbled by environments as well. And but that was one of the things, because I didn't expect to see something that ancient, because we don't have that back home. Like in Canada, maybe 100 years, like you don't have structures that are that ancient. Like there is in Newfoundland, there is a Viking enclave that they know. So we know that the Vikings were in North America well before Columbus and all that stuff. So, but I have to travel like thousands of kilometers to go and see that. I don't just go down the street and see something that's, hundreds or thousands of years old. We don't have that. So for me to see that in person and know that I could go there any day I want to, pretty cool. And I love it. So
Yeah. Being here in here, have you had any moment that you feel like, have you had any moment in Cambodia that you feel like I made the wrong decision? And if you have, how do you come after that?
no, I've never felt like I've made the wrong choice of being here. I've made wrong decisions while here, but not by being here. I keep waiting for that moment to hit of where I get homesick.
Yeah.
It's where I feel like I need to go home for something. I had a touch of that hit like after my first year here. I was thinking like and it wasn't because I was homesick. I was just thinking it's like, God, it's been a whole year. That's a long time. And I think about all the things that I'd done in that year. I'm like, what the hell? I've been to 3 different countries. I've been to like a dozen cities. Like, this is crazy. Who am I? What am I doing? And I became kind of overwhelmed with that. I don't think I've made a wrong choice. Like there's not a downside to being here, except for in April when it was like 45 degrees out.
Yeah.
And I was out for a walk a little bit later than I should be, and I got lightheaded. And I quickly resolved that by hopping into a pharmacy, grabbing a bottle of water and a Royal D, and drinking that down, get my electrolytes back up. But that was, that's the only time that I feel like I made a bad choice. That was just me being stupid and not knowing how to deal with, it's 45 out, but it feels like 52.
Oh.
It was hot here in Siem Reap.
What is the 3 things you like the most about living in Cambodia?
The weather, the fact that I can wear the same t-shirts. I don't have to I don't have to worry about my clothes. I don't have to dress myself every day. Like, I don't have to think it's going to rain or it's going to snow, or I don't have minus 40 to plus 40 weather. I have, 18 to 40 years. Like, it's like I'm living in a tropical region where it's consistent, and even if it's going to be a rainy day, I just have an umbrella on my backpack, and it doesn't rain all day. It may be overcast, but it'll rain for an hour.
Yeah.
And it's a big rain. And when it hits, I just go into a coffee shop if I'm out, or if I'm at home, I just go outside and, stand under the balcony, and I watch the rain and listen to it. It's gorgeous. Like, it's like, this place is like, even when the weather's crappy, it's still beautiful here. Like, I'm always at awe with the weather here. Like, it's wonderful. Again, from a guy coming from Canada where it's cold, 6 months out of the year, and you're miserable and you just, like, I don't get grumpy about going outside ever. So that's one. The history is another thing. I love the fact that there's so much like history, and it's all tied to the nature as well. It's like I can go for a walk in a park and there's statues that are there that have been there for centuries. You know, there's stuff that's everywhere, and they're still finding stuff too, and I love that. You know, they're still discovering some of their own history here. You know, there's still archaeology.
Yeah,
a
a lot of things to discover.
Yeah. My favorite thing, hands down, are the people. Like, without any question. Like, we've already talked about it, but like the people here are amazing. Like, I'm just in awe. You know, come out to this little cafe. We're sitting here for hours. Nobody's giving us grief. Nope, they keep checking, making sure we still have drinks and everything. But, you know, like, that would never happen back home. I would have asked to leave hours ago. You know? And, oh, look, bringing us a light. No, thank you. But this is what we're talking about. Yeah, if you couldn't have been more front.
Oh,
That.
this is what we're talking about.
Does that not encompass exactly like that? Nothing was said. And it's just that attention to care is in every aspect of every day, in every interaction I've had with people here. They want to do the best they can for themselves, for everybody around them. And that's just... So I'm covered in goose flesh right now because of that. Back home, like if I'd meet somebody, you know, and you become friendly, and like because I have a science fiction and, you know, I love Star Trek, I called them Klingons. You know, they'll cling on to you. You know,
Yeah.
you know, they're desperate for that human interaction, and so you get the person that just won't leave you alone. I only have that with Western folks, like my people. If you know, you distance yourself a little bit, they give you your space. Like there's, you know, I've never had them force themselves to spend time with them. You know, they're like, you know, hey, do you want to do something? No? Okay. Talk to you later.
Why do you decide to start up your YouTube channel?
The intention of the channel was to have something to showcase my travels. I told you I had a gaming channel, right? So one of the things that I found doing that is like the more that I put myself out and I talked, the better I felt. So one of the ways that I process my crap in my head is I just turn on the camera, start talking. And a lot of days I won't know what I'm doing, and a lot of days I never post it. But it's a video journal. It's a way for me to process things that are bothering me. Sometimes if I'm a little down, if I'm missing something or something has irked me a little bit, I'll just pull out my camera, because you see, I carry cameras with me all the time. Like I charge them every night to make sure I've got them. But not everything makes it. But the stuff that I think is important that I want to share, I post. And so I've developed a thing of like, you know, the walk and talk vlog. But even when I'm eating, it's not just the food.
Yeah.
It's more of an experience of like, you know, I'm enjoying the meal. I'm like, oh my God, this is so good. But I'm also talking about other things, you know, and it's just, for me, it's a way that I can maintain communication with my family. Because that has been the best part of it. Like my father watches all my videos every day. He'll message me, you know, at 8 o'clock at night, you know, or 7 o'clock at night when he's getting up in the morning. He'll be like, oh, great vlog from yesterday, and we talk about stuff. And, you know, he's also now interested in some of the people that I follow. So he like, you know, how's Doug and how's Daryl doing? And, you know, people that I communicate with all the time, and he watches their stuff. And so my dad has become more interested in me and my life, and he's learning more about Southeast Asia, where he had the same preconceived notions I had about Cambodia. And he was like watching this, he goes, it is so beautiful there. He goes, is it really like that? Like he's asking me, like, you're not bullshitting me, right? This is what it's like. And I'm like, no, this is exactly, you know, I try not to sugarcoat things, you know, if it is what it is. Part of it is for me to process my stuff, because, you know, we all have baggage. You know, we have good days and bad days, and
Yeah, of course, also knowing that you are safety, seeing your videos every day, knowing that you are doing fine,
He's supportive. My mom's the same way. My son watches them. I have a 22-year-old son, or he turns 22 in April, but I always round up for him because, you know, he's a kid. But yeah, he'll watch my stuff and is like, Dad, that was so cool. Can't believe you got to go there. You know, the places that I'm going to that he wishes he could. And he likes food. You know, he works in the service industry back in Canada. You know, he's working in a kitchen. He was working in an Asian kitchen. And, you know, I wish that I could have gotten some of the local stuff from him here. You know, those little round eggplants that you can't find back home. I'd be like, you know. But yeah, the channel was not started for anything other than for me just to process my own garbage and keep it up to date with my family, you know. And the fact that people are tuning into it and that they found, you know, things that they like about what I do, it's humbling too, you know. The fact that people want to watch and they leave comments and
it helps you more to connect with people.
yeah, like I've made friends through making that, and like you saw here, a random dude bicycling down the road. Hey, you know, because apparently I have a look that is unique and unrecognizable. But it happens all the time here, and it's like, and it's great. And I have a lot of folks will, you know, say, hey, you know, I've watched your videos and I want to come to Siem Reap, or I'll be there in April. You know, I'd love to hang out and, you know, buy you a coffee and stuff. And that happens all the time. And like, I've met some cool people. Like I met so many really cool people. Like last week I had coffee with a couple of people that just got here that just wanted to connect. And that's, you know, for a guy that doesn't like to put himself out to meet people, as an introvert, the hardest thing is to walk up to a person and saying hi. I have to have an excuse. So if I have, like, I'm at a restaurant, I can walk up to the cashier. I have a purpose. So like, I'm ordering a coffee. I'm ordering this thing. That I'm fine with. But it's like, you know, that's a cute girl working at the cash register. I can't just walk up and say hi. You know, that my brain doesn't know how to register that. But with this is like, I've already developed that introduction. So now they're approaching me because I don't know who they are. You know, they see me on the street, like, hey, you're the YouTube guy. And now that barrier's gone.
Conversation.
And so it's like, and that's easy. And I also really like the fact that people say to me, is like, oh, you're just like in your videos, you know, that you're the same, like we talk the same way that, you know, like I know who you are because of your videos, and you were like that in real life.
What is the biggest lesson you've learned traveling around?
Check my ego traveling is that I have to understand that I am in the moment and I cannot do and be anything other than just an observer for the most part. Like when I'm traveling, especially if I'm like in transit, like the last thing I need is any crap, you know, that baggage. Like the least, you know, when you're carrying luggage and when you're traveling, like the less you carry, the easier it is. That's the same for me mentally. Like the less I have in my, you know, preconceived notions about how the trip is going to go, the better it goes. And I also find that the I have more fun if I don't do any research. If I go to a city and I don't know anything about it and I'm just exploring it on foot, I have so much fun.
It goes natural.
I find things, and that's the other thing. I have people leaving comments that like I've been, you know, there like 100 times. I've never seen these places. Like, how did you find them? I'm like, I just walked.
Do you think it's advisable? Like, you know, going into a place without making research?
I do basic research of like, you know, what's temperature, what's the, like, do people like it? That kind of stuff. But I don't research places to go. You know, I do that cursory things. Like when I went to Dalat, I knew nothing. I knew that people loved it. I had friends that had been there. I had friends that had made videos there. And I knew that I was going to go there. I just didn't watch the videos until after. And then it was easier. I'm like, oh, okay. I didn't even know that place was there. I love that, you know? Or I'll go to a place to meet up with a friend and they're wanting to make recommendations. Those are amazing. Because if you have a fellow foodie or a fellow, explorer like you, and they're like, oh, you have to go and see this place. Like when I was in Saigon, my buddy Daryl he has a channel called Wander Eats. He took Doug and I to a secret place. We weren't allowed to know anything about it. We met up for egg coffee and he took us off to this place. And it was the best day because this was a little house that was used to store armaments and things that were part of the Viet Cong in the middle of the city. And this was a small piece of history that you had to go and order a drink. You could take a tea, coffee, beverage, whatever you wanted. And that was the price of admission to this place. And so it was like this cool little house. And I'm like, this is amazing. And he's like, oh yeah, there's a secret. He pulled back a table and there's a trap door that goes into a basement that I had no idea existed there. And if he hadn't have been there, if he hadn't done that stuff, who would have known? And so we crawl around a basement, we're crawling up the walls on the inside. There's like all these secret tunnels and things. And it was so much fun. So when you have a person like that wants to give you those recommendations, that's pure gold. So
Can I ask your age? What are your...
I am currently 56.
How does it feel to be 56?
I feel still like I'm in my 20s. I like to talk to my son about this because I find it's very important. The older I get, I never feel mentally any different than I do when I was in my early 20s. I still feel like the same kid. I'm still in awe of things. Like, I still love the same stuff. I love reading horror novels, science fiction. I can't get enough of that stuff. Video games, still, I love all of it. The only difference that I find is that the machinery that is around my brain, it aches a little bit more, I don't heal as fast, I got chubbier in places that I didn't like, but I don't feel any different. I don't feel like I'm old. I'll look in the mirror some days and I'm like, oh, what the hell? But, it's like, it's not a big deal. I think the key is to be young at heart still. And what I found is, like, I had friends that, same age, a little bit younger. And once they gave up living, they stopped having that zest for exploring and, new experiences. And they just kind of like, okay, this is my life. They got old. And I'm not just talking like physically old, like mentally they got old.
Yeah.
And I just would see that and I'm like, yep, I'm not doing that, So I read all the time. I explore, I go on adventures. And if I feel myself getting lethargic or feeling like I just want to not do things, I'll take a day or two. I'm okay with that. But I won't let it go past 2 days. Because I don't want to... I don't want to give up. Life is fun, man.
Yeah. What is your biggest regret?
My biggest regret? Biggest regret is missing out on a lot of my son's life. I had moved to Florida when he was 3, 4, and my ex-wife and I had split, and so I had been in Florida for a couple of years, and then I moved back to Toronto to be closer to him, and I was spending weekends with him, and then I ended up dating a lady, and we moved back to Florida, and that relationship and that move, I regret because, I missed a big chunk of his growing up. And then when I moved back to Canada to be closer to him, the pandemic hit, and I didn't get a chance to see him still. I haven't seen him since he was a kid. And I talked to him, like we talk, but he's a man now. And the last time I saw him, he was a boy. And so, yeah, that's a tough one for me, but I still love the snot out of the kid. Like, he's the reason I started my gaming channel, because when I was moving away, he's like, Dad, because we were playing Minecraft together, and he's like, I wish can you make a video game channel so that if I miss you, I can watch your videos and I could feel like we're doing things together. I'm like, yeah, that'd be awesome. And so I started making a gaming channel, And I still do that to this day. You know, just in case he ever wants to watch his old man play a video game. You know, it's cool. But like I regret missing part of his growing up, but it never got in the way of any part of my, you know, talking with him or being his dad or anything like that. You know, I never felt distant from him. You know, even if it would be months that I would not talk to him, when we reconnect, we like, you know, when it's your best friend and you haven't seen each other for a while, it's like, oh hi, you know, time just goes right back to it's just nothing. And he's a great kid.
What is the meaning of life for you?
Honestly, like the older I'm getting, it's never to stop living. Like there's so much to explore. There's so many questions to have answered. Like, and you don't have to travel to do these things. Like, I'm the person that needs to travel to get answers to things because that's how I'm built. You know, some people get it in their job. You know, they're scientists, they're artists, or whatever it is. But if you start something and you have a drive for anything, it's never let that falter. Like whatever it is, I'm a creative person. And that's part, like I was like artistic as a child. I was painting, I was drawing, I did sculptures. Then my dad was like, oh, I wish you'd draw again. I'm like, I'm still a creation. I'm making videos. And like, the medium that I use is just different. I'm still that creative kid, you know? I'm not drawing with my pencil anymore. I'm painting a picture with my life, you know, and I'm cool with this. It's a different thing. But I think that's the meaning of life, is to never let any of your dreams fade away, is to live them, enjoy them. And if you have a passion for something, find it, follow it, and never let it go.
What message do you have for Cambodians?
Don't change. Don't cave into Western ideals. Don't follow and believe that everything in the West is how everything should be, because you already have it right. You have a gem here in the country, in the population, and how everything is. Nurture exactly what you are and be the beacon for the rest of the world, and let them come to you instead of you following them, because they've already done it and they're not doing it right. So just do what you're doing, because you guys have got an amazing thing here, and just keep doing what you're doing. Just build on it and don't let that falter and fade. It's too important.